Hello and welcome to another edition of XFeed. This is a show where we go and talk about the crypto markets, the NFT news, things that I'm interested in, things that I think that you should be paying attention to. That could be right, could be wrong, but that's kind of the moral of the story today because off of our first story, you can see that people are potentially right one day and then the next they are oh so wrong. So making certain statements, saying certain things sometimes just ends in absolute complete disaster. And it's kind of funny when you see it in like the full picture of in the moment, it's a brilliant take. And then like a couple seconds later, it's like, yeah, that's not necessarily the best cup of tea in the pot, unless you're a coffee drinker. And then you do you, baby. All right. So BigCoin. This is a game that was the big hoopla over the past, I'd call it week, and then the price crashed. So basically the idea with this is you had a room. You were able to pay like, I don't know, $10, $15 and start with this potato miner. And so you got like a little bit of one of these big coins a day, right? And then if you had more, you could upgrade, and then you would need to upgrade to get like a room to have more power, and then it goes on and on and on. And now they're having this thing where they're doing this macro strategy bonds. Apparently this is supposed to get bigger and bigger, but the point being is that there's people that got in early on this that were making like thousands upon thousands a day, and it was completely ridiculous, but it went super viral. It got people on Abstract, and this is like a super basic setup of like what I have. Like this is it's probably one of the worst ones you'll see out on the timeline, but I'm like, okay, now I'm experiencing what the kind of hoopla is, and now I can compare and contrast. And that's something that I think a lot of people do within the space, but you don't really have full perspectives if you're not actively trying out different things and seeing kind of what the excitement is all about regarding it. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, because during this crash, we'll call it, because it went from like 5 mil market cap up to like 20 mil market cap, back down to like a 6 mil market cap, and at the top somebody bought like $102,000 worth of big, which you almost forget for a minute how many big players you're actually dealing with within the crypto space. But somebody's making a huge play on that, and then, well, that's now worth 30,000. But then you go and check the price charts, and from the $3 that it went down to, it's now up to $6. And so you have massive volatility. And it's funny when people are championing certain things, and then they're like, oh yeah, that was a failure. And then it's like, well, not really. It's still doing all right, and just always be conscientious of what kind of opinions you throw out there. But one opinion I feel relatively strong about is how the video game industry is going to change. And we talked about the Ubisoft thing the other day where they were saying that they had a limited license to the game and that people were renting. They didn't actually own the game, and it started all this hoopla. And so, quote from Mutar saying, piracy is morally correct in this situation. Legally, they should change the term buying to renting. And so this is going to have a huge change, and we're starting to see this. I can't think of a time before when we talked about like video games being rentals, like for video game skins. Since NFTs kind of started getting more popular, that's been a talk. But for games themselves, when you own things, I don't know, there seems to be a little bit of a pattern, and we'll talk about some other ones, including Minecraft, that have hit the news recently. I find it crazy how many people have seen turn Apechain NFTs into mutant apes and bored apes. Love to see that shit, and love to see dreams being made on Apechain. So again, this is a perspective, right? Are you out there? Are you trying things on Abstract? Are you out there trying things on Apechain? Well, some people are, and clearly going from smaller aspirations to bigger ones, from just staying active in new and interesting ecosystems as people are trying to figure out what they want to get into. Crypto Kelly, love the takes. Markets are healing for a bit. Solana is the future of blockchain, and the largest global players are able to join in as SEC continues its complete 180 on crypto. So this is back to the conversation around like bold statements, and I don't necessarily think this is wrong, right? I think arguably, well, not even arguably, the future is multi-chain, period. That's not really an argument by any means. Buffalo Space coming through with a fatty 35 months. What an absolute legend up in the house. What are we doing, brother?
NFTs are dead.
True. So Solana, the future of blockchain. Not a horrible take, but I feel like not necessarily an accurate one. There's going to be people that use Solana for sure, but is it the future of the entire blockchain industry? That feels kind of bold. The blockchain is the most undervalued sector in the world right now, and more are starting to realize it. So I agree with this, and I brought up Bill Noble a couple times here, and he's somebody who was like working at like Goldman Sachs, done like a whole bunch of like banker, just big financial type jobs, and he was going on about how where are you going to go for returns on things? And Corwin coming through on a 16er. Holy smokes, what are we doing? Unbelievable. Thank you. You guys are great. Hope you guys are having a phenomenal Monday. Maybe the day just started for you. Maybe you just woke up, or maybe it's Tuesday. Or no, it's not. I don't know. New Zealand time, right? Corbin, I don't think you're in New Zealand, but I'm just saying, the future. All right. Enough of that crap. But for Bill Noble, he was talking about how, like, where are you going to go for returns? And all right, do we say like the stock market? Do you say real estate? Where are these things actually going to happen? And he's like, well, it's crypto. I mean, look at this. And you go and you compare different market caps. And if you look it up, the market cap of Home Depot, right? You ever go to the store, Home Depot? They got like the NASCAR, at least Tony Stewart back in the day. I don't know if Home Depot still does that, but I remember that as a kid. They have a market cap of like 300 something billion. And Ethereum has a market cap of like 178 billion, right? So, all right, I understand Ethereum's digital. I understand, all right, Solana's the future of blockchain. So why are we even talking about Ethereum in theory, right? But it's like, holy crap, you're right. Like the number 2 thing in crypto is not even the same market cap as the Home Depot company. Just for some perspectives. And I kind of agree with that. Okay, Noise XYZ is one of the few apps I enjoy using without any incentives recently, but I think the real fun begins once the market goes past crypto. For example, gamble on the mindshare of all 30 NBA teams. That would be awesome. Now, I have no idea what this is. I just saved it because I'm like, listen, you got to be a little bit, curious of what's going on. So can we figure out what Noise is in like a reasonable time? Discover and trade trends built on Mega ETH Labs. So this was, I believe, that collection that sold the NFTs that were soul-bound for an ETH that got a lot of attention when it launched. I haven't seen it on the timeline at all since that happened. Do you guys remember when that crazy meant for like an ETH and a bunch of the whales were like, hell yeah? I haven't seen it. But the website so far, like this feels kind of smooth. Let's see what it is. Connect. All right, you've already lost me. If I have to connect something to see what it is, I'm already like, no, thank you. We need to fix that. Betty from Deadfellaz. There are 88.9 million daily users on Roblox, with 60% of them over the age of 13. With Cold Link, we can now build games in spaces of virality, while acknowledging and rewarding Web3 ownership in-game. The future is now leading the charge. Meet people where they are and blow them away. So, Wall Hugger, our co-op survival horror game built in Roblox, partnership with Amazing Tips. Okay, so this is one of the Web3 teams that's building something in Roblox. Now, I have, I'd call it like a little bit of PTSD, because if you think of some of the collections before, and if you look at my YouTube page, you might have actually watched the video, but we did one on the grapes, right? And the thumbnail was this big exposed grapes, but I wasn't necessarily trying to paint the picture within that video of like, hey, these guys are like absolute scammers, because I bought into the collection. I thought that it was kind of cool back in the day. It was backed by Animoca. They ran to like 4 ETH, and then the team disappeared. Everything went to 0, and scam of the century. But within that, they were talking about how they were going to build experiences within Roblox, they were going to build experiences within Fortnite, and all this hoopla, right? And it sounds good, but then how often does that actually come to fruition? So seeing that this experience is actually there, and I don't think I've seen Deadfellaz mention at all previously that they were building for Roblox in general, it's like, okay, cool, you actually have like a working product, and that is nice. Now, the only other team that I can think of that's actually done something in either of the games was OK Bears, and that was one of the top collections on Solana. I don't know if it's as popular anymore. Like OK Bears, DGen Ape Academy, I think Solana Monkey Business is still like sort of big, but it's weird. It's weird because there's so many different collections, and they were like having peaks at points, and then it feels like you just don't see anybody talking about them anymore on the timeline. And why exactly is that the case? XCOPY. They just call the work N. It looks like a pill, 300 milligrams, just sold for 255 ETH, 421,000 on secondary. The Sam Spratt masks, right? They're got a floor of like $10,000. XCOPY 1-of-1s are flying off the shelves, and we're suddenly seeing all over the timeline people talking about how art is having a resurgence across the entire space. Every week, this soccer team reps Pudgy Penguins on their jersey. Super cool. CD, Castellon. I don't want to be negative by any means, but I'm like, I feel like the little Pudgy doesn't like hit. You know what I mean? Like this one, some of the jerseys, I kind of thought that with the Gutter Cat gang too, is like a lot of them, anytime there's like a jersey, it doesn't really work. And I think there's actually some little Pudgies that look really cool. So that's my only like complaint with this, which is maybe stupid because again, of course, you have like an NFT on a jersey that is kind of cool. We saw the WAGMI United try to do that, and then they completely dropped everything crypto related. And I was like, all right, we're going to be the internet's team, and never mind. But seeing little Pudgies do that is cool. But I'm like, I don't know. Maybe we get like a cooler looking Pudgy, unless I paid for it. And then hey, you know what? You do you. But just personal take on this. Okay, so back to the abstract discussion where people are right one day and then people are wrong the next. So this Leonard person, when Bitcoin went like crashing down, because again, it got like super crazy all over the timeline, just went completely parabolic and then crashed back down. But you have to remember, everybody was screaming that it was a Ponzi. And you knew, and like we literally watched on stream Thursday or Friday of people showing that they were making like $16 a minute type of deal. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense, but welcome to crypto. And so they have this huge thing about how, the abstract team was the ones that like pushed this and like, they're bad actors within the space. And I'm like, man, if you have a network, right? Like you kind of want to talk about like whatever's on there, because one of the problems you'll see is different builders on space. I mean, we could use Apechain as an example where people are coming through. They're probably like bagging Garga, the CEO, being like, yo, my man, can you talk about my collection? But what if you just talked about like all of them? I mean, obviously you have the risk of, okay, well, what if something goes bad with it? But it feels like Big Time is having development for it. It's not intended to be a scam. It's just, it got so viral so early. And that's the case we've seen with a lot of games. And it doesn't mean that it's not going to exist. The Carbon saying, this is an unfair acquisition. Their entire job is to show whatever's going on in their ecosystem. They don't know what's the top any more than anyone else knows. So, and then the arguments come through of people saying, well, they had a Flash abstract badge that you can collect for participating within the ecosystem. But again, it's like, you don't need to go out and buy the token. You could have just bought like one of the basic things for like $10, $15, whatever it is. But again, you got to kind of be aware of what is going on. Okay, Ray Dalio with a huge line here. This has been all over the feed the past couple of days. What did he have to say?
I think that right now we are at a decision-making point and very close to a recession. And I'm worried about something worse than a recession if this isn't handled well. A recession is 2 negative quarters of GDP, and whether it goes slightly there, we always have those things. We have something that's much more profound. We have a breaking down of the monetary order. We are going to change the monetary order because we cannot spend the amounts of money, so we have that problem. And when we talk about the dollar and we talk about tariffs, we have that. We are having profound changes in our domestic order, how ruling is existing, and we're having profound changes in the world order. Such times are very much like the 1930s. I've studied history, and this repeats over and over again. So if you take tariffs, if you take debt, if you take the rising power challenging the existing power, if you take those factors and look at the factors, those changes in the orders, the systems, are very, very disruptive. How that's handled could produce something that is much worse than a recession.
Okay, so a lot of talks about things as a whole, but monetary order. And I think, for myself, and speaking purely for myself, once getting into crypto and realizing all this stuff, the ownership, the way that people like work in terms of like what they want to trade for value and everything, it's like, wow, you kind of have like a moment of, man, the world is super strange. And being in the blockchain space, you're like, well, this breaks down barriers. The world's going digitally. People are questioning everything. You see other countries where like money's not like hard money in some cases, and it just changes a complete way of thinking. And then seeing these kind of like mass hysteria things, you're like, holy smokes. Like we talk about blockchain disrupting things, and that conversation wasn't necessarily bringing up blockchain as a whole, but, you know, living and breathing this every single day. It's like tokenizing everything, perspectives changing them. I don't know. And AI agents, that's a big thing. So we highlighted last week that the agent-to-agent protocol for Google is partnering with like a whole bunch of people. Okay? And it's agent to agent. So everything's going to have professional and specific agents to things. AI agents are everywhere, but they don't speak the same language. Agent to agent changes that. It's an open protocol that lets AI agents interoperate across vendors, systems, and tools, built with 50 plus enterprise partners. It's a missing layer for scalable agent ecosystems. So we've been covering Think, which is an AI agent platform as well that's coming out. And this is on Web3 Rails. It's connected with Futureverse. We played a couple of clips from it. But if you're trying to get involved in certain components of it, well, this is a great example. Because, I mean, for what's going on with Google and the agents, I'm like, how do I get involved with that, right? Do I buy a stock of Google or one of these other companies? Or can you own your own intelligence and be a part of this bigger aspect? And so I've been paying really close attention to that. And Core, when it's basically an API for agents, it sounds like, yeah. And so this goes back to a lot of different components within like the Futureverse ecosystem where, you know, before there was a partnership with Animoca Brands, and it was supposed to be using the ASO token and all of Futureverse's AI protocol, but now that's merged into Think. And so how does that work when we move forward with all of this? And are these tokens now going to be some of the representations of like the bets on this AI agent future as a whole, and integrated in a lot of other things? So more updates from Futureverse, because they asked everyone who's like, yo, give me some questions on things. I'm very excited to bring Altered State AI out of the early access, enabling the full published mode, including Think Agents protocol. So again, a big connection with there, and the Universal Basic Framework integration built on Silo, and that there's a very big partnership that's they're announcing later this week. And there was somebody that commented that was about like the bat cowls. So I'm not sure if it's like DC Comics, Candy Digital as a whole. I've seen a guy called like Javi Torres, I think, just screaming that there's a partnership between the two. So I don't know if that got leaked or what, but I'm guessing that's the partnership this week. And we're seeing some big happenings, and this is all kind of correlating as well around the Think Agent Mint that's happening in about, like 10-ish, just under 10 days times. So shall be interesting. So back to the gaming conversation and how perspectives are completely changing. Recently, I realized I no longer own Minecraft because I didn't merge my Mojang account to my Microsoft account. I bought it 15 years ago and they unpurchased it from me. I don't understand how this kind of thing is even legal. Oh, really? Gamers starting to realize there's some shady things going on. Very interesting. Also had another take here that I love. The gaming industry is increasingly moving to a future where you no longer own the games you buy. Happens all the time. I can't play my 2-year-old version of NBA 2K because they shut down the servers and I only play single player. I feel like there should be more pushback on this. Like, that's crazy, right? You buy a game, you don't care about the online functions at all. You remember back in the day when it didn't matter, when you couldn't even get internet access on some of the consoles. Now you can't even play the freaking game without it. That's ridiculous. People are standing up. Yo, Atari God looking good, but wearing the McDonald's Doodles merch. I totally forgot that happened. It's so wild that something is so viral or happening for like a week at a time, and then you completely forget that it even existed. Remember the coffee cups? I remember the coffee cups. Over $906 million worth of tokens, including Trump, Immutable X, Say, Apecoin, and Arbitrum, to be unlocked this week. Sheesh. That's going to be tough. That's going to be tough. What else is tough? You guys haven't seen Mantra's Ohm token? Dropped 80% in an hour. It lost $3.5 billion in market cap. So people are kind of pissed, right? For the Bitcoin, they're like, man, we dropped, what is it? Like 10 million market cap? Try 3.5 billion. Holy goodness. And Kage actually having kind of an interesting thought with this, and he's like, how's a chain like Ronin not even top 10 when it's amongst the most used chains with real players playing and spending on games. And I agree. I mean, when you look at like some of the top tokens and you look at things, you're like, I don't understand how any of this stuff's in the top 10. We need a complete repricing of things. Like you'll find things on page like 6 that'll one day crack the top 100. And half of the stuff on here doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And I really fundamentally believe that. And seeing things like that is crazy. But then crazier is that you have the founder who's going out to mention or discuss this, and they're wearing like one of the most expensive watches ever. Right? Like, what are you doing? So here's the breakdown of what happened, apparently. Update, MANTA founder JP Mullen claims the Ohm token crash was triggered by reckless forced closures. So let's see what this is. Sherpas, Ohmies, and broader crypto community. That would be us. First off, the team and I greatly appreciate the support that we have received over the past several hours, which we believe is a testament to the strong support MANTA has among its investors and community. Yo, Kid Arcade, what's going on? We're going over the MANTA. You see the $3.4 billion crash on this? Unbelievable. Here's their letter to the broader crypto community. We have determined that the Ohm market movements were triggered by the reckless forced closure initiated by central exchanges on Ohm account holders. So, let's read that again. We have determined that the Ohm market movements were triggered by reckless forced closures initiated by centralized exchange on Ohm account holders. So how the hell does the exchange just say, yeah, we're forcing you to sell everything? And it goes back to like the not your keys, not your crypto, but I don't think I've heard of this before. The timing and depth of the crash suggests that a very sudden closure of account positions was initiated without significant or sufficient warning or notice. Because when this first came out, somebody made a comment, or I thought it was an official, but maybe it wasn't, that there was a single person that got like wiped out on leverage that tanked it. So it's like, there's a single thing propping up all of this? Like, huh? That this happened during low liquidity hours on a Sunday evening, UTC, early morning Asia time, points to a degree of negligence at best, or possibly internal market positioning taken by centralized exchanges. Centralized exchange partners play an important role in providing liquidity to projects like ours. We work closely with them, however, they continue to exercise enormously high levels of discretion. When discretionary powers are exercised without due internal and external oversight, dislocations like what we recently happened can and will occur, hurting both projects and investors alike. To be clear, this dislocation was not caused by the team, the MANTA chain associations, its core advisors, or MANTA's investors selling tokens. Tokens remain locked and subject to the published vesting periods. Ohm's tokenomics remain intact and shared last week, and our latest token report or token wallet addresses are online and visible. So I guess when we compare this to something else, remember when like the stable coins depegged like a year ago or whatever, and people were buying like USDC for like 90 or 95 cents, and then it repegged and they're like, woo, we just made some cashola, baby. Would you feel comfortable buying this at like an 80% drop all of a sudden? Talking about market makers. And I saw this like not personally affected per se, but like within Silo and Futureverse, they posted that I don't know if it was bit something, and they said that they didn't like, they weren't trustworthy of like that market maker, so they changed to like HTX or something. I don't exactly know all the hoopla about it, but a lot of conversation around Binance listing this, and then if they were the reason that it was a forced closure, I'm surprised they didn't just flat out say like, yo, Binance was the person that did this to us. Is like a lot of odd things about the whole thing in general. I don't know. Just feels odd. But that's going to be it for this edition of XFeed Kid Arcade. Thank you so much for coming through. Corwin as well, and Buffalo Space Drop on the 35 months. Holy jeez, what are we doing? Unbelievable. Just a quick reminder as well, if you enjoy the shows and you're wanting to have a little bit of a different spice to the show or flavor, we do the RWA Segments podcast, which the link is in the description down below on YouTube or on my bio on X, or if you just type in RWA Segments, but with an I, like segment, you know what I mean? Like NFT mint on any podcasting platform, you'll be able to see or listen to all of the fun conversations around that. Tomorrow we're dropping like a best of, so we're going over Courtyard and how they spent like $500,000 on Pokemon cards. We went over the aspect of how hard it is to get on the Epic Game Store. We go over the trials and tribulations of running an NFT marketplace and what founders don't really realize, and a whole bunch more. So I hope you guys tune into that episode tomorrow. But of course, we'll be live again. Hope you have a phenomenal rest of your day, phenomenal rest of your week, and all that other jazz. We'll talk soon. Peace!